All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Alpha Obeisance channel. I want to take a moment to step away from the Noob's Guide to Hyperland. That should be ready to go. I actually ended up scrapping the entire project, so I've been on a mad dash all day to try and get things re-recorded, redone, with a more appealing. And I'll tell you, I got rid of the girls, okay? I got rid of the girls so that it appealed to everybody and everybody could sit through the content. If you don't like my logo or a silhouette and you guys want to complain about that, you can pound sand. I'll go back to my anime girls just like that. So this is my attempt to make things a little more user-friendly for you guys. That being said, I want to address a comment that I found really great. So One Life Pillow says, the guide sounds like a great idea. My big problem is when I read the guide, I don't really get it. I don't understand how people know how people get to the conclusions they do when configuring their system. And I could relate to this so well. My first experience in Hyprland, that's exactly how I felt. Because just like everyone else out there that really doesn't know how to work with these kind of systems, I ended up tracking down the Hyprland Discord, and it was very much like an Arch Linux experience, which makes sense, where I joined the forum and I was like, hey guys, I'm trying to do this. What's up? I'm glad to be a part of the community, yada yada, and introduced myself. And then I said, well, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Is there anyone that might be able to point me in the right direction? And you know what? The one answer, you guys already know what the one fucking answer was. Go read the wiki. Go read the wiki. Read the documentation. So what did I do? I went to the Hyprland wiki, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to conclude the moment you get to the Hyprland wiki that it was written by power users for power users. So it really did me no good as a more or less a common end user to read the documentation, because it just made so many assumptions that I understood how this shit worked in the first place. It more or less didn't spoon feed me. Now I can hear the programmers in the back like, we don't give a shit, dude. That's cool. You don't want to give a shit about being more appealing to a wider user base. That's fine. I don't give a shit either way, because I'm using the software. It makes me no difference. But personally, if I was working on a project and I wanted that project to be used by people and more people, because more hands on deck means more opportunity to possibly onboard more help with the project, I would want to make sure that my documentation was as easy to understand as possible. I'm quite literally talking to the extent of Arch Linux. Now, you mentioned the Arch Linux wiki, and you're going to say, well, that's for advanced users. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Arch Linux is for advanced users that are willing to get their hands dirty. But the one thing about their documentation is they don't make the assumption that you're just already know what Linux is about. In fact, quite the opposite. Arch Linux is an advanced distribution for power users that are willing to get their hands dirty, but their documentation is written in such a way that, hey kid, I'm glad you stopped by the Arch Linux wiki. I'm glad you're trying to learn this stuff. I'm going to break it down for you. And they break it down to literally someone with the IQ of 35 could read the Arch Linux wiki, and as long as they could read English and follow hyperlinks, they're going to learn everything and everything, down to the absolute most basic fundamentals about Linux. That is the difference between the Arch Linux wiki and the Hyprland wiki. Is the Arch Linux wiki is at least going to reward you for seeking out documentation, and it's going to break it down as in-depth as they possibly can. That's why the Arch Linux wiki is indisputably the king of Linux wikis. Like, everybody knows that. It doesn't matter if you use Arch Linux or not. Literally, anyone that actually uses Linux will tell you that the Arch Linux wiki is hands down the best resource for learning how to use Linux. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking towards Hyprland with my Noob's Guide to Hyprland. Granted, it's not going to be a definitive guide because I'm still learning it myself. And because I'm not a professional and I don't understand a lot of the systems yet, I'm probably going to explain some things incorrectly. I'm probably going to mislabel things or, try and explain things to the best of my ability, but inevitably I'm going to get some things wrong. But you guys need to keep in mind I'm making this guide primarily for my 14-year-old son. And it's because of that I am trying to dumb this down as much as I possibly can. And what I mean by that, as I mentioned before, is I took the default Hyprland .conf file that literally had like all of the configurations into one single freaking configuration file, and I segregated them into easy to understand sub configurations. So I created a config folder underneath the parent, the hyper parent configuration. I created the aesthetics, the workspaces, auto start, environment, input rules, key bindings, monitors, variables, and window rules. And I included documentation. Damn near every single line in my configurations have been documented so that people can literally look at the code and know what it does. Now, I understand. You're not going to want to do this because most people that are looking at this stuff are power users, okay? Most people are going to understand. But I am doing it so that a 14-year-old can look at it, read the lines, and understand what it does. So I am doing documentation as best I can, okay? And literally every single configuration that is sourced is done the same way. A good example are my key bindings. You can see I've got what I call the noob notes at the top, and then every single section of the keybinds configuration tells you clearly at the beginning of the section what the following keybinds are going to pertain to, whether it's applications or variable sources, and so on and so forth. And then on some of them, I even document it further by including comments in there that explain what this does. So I have gone above and beyond to really, really dumb down Hyprland so that hopefully anybody could understand it by following along with my guide. So again, guys, this guide is going to be released tomorrow. It's called The Noob's Guide to Hyprland. I really hope that you guys find it useful. If you do, if you're following along, if you see this video and you anticipate this guide, I really hope that you will interact with it. If you find knowledge within this guide, if you find it useful, if you find it helpful, if you're able by the end of watching my guide to take my configuration files or even build your own, I would love it if you would at least like the videos. Let me and my kid know that I did something right, because I have put so much effort into this, even if it's not perfect, and I'm telling you it's not. But I've put so much effort into it. I've stayed up late for several nights trying to plan it out and make sure that it's all good. I've spent countless hours documenting the configurations and just trying my best to make it as user-friendly as possible. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I appreciate that comment, and yeah, well, I appreciate it. I'm really tired, so I'm going to go. Take care, guys. Have a great evening.